Hey guys, today's topic is going to be three major things that cannot be reconciled to the LDS Church's truth and authority claims found on my homepage on Mormon Truth Videos Gospel Topics Hub. Just like those Gospel Topics essays, so I created this long tail keyword, Mormon Truth Videos Gospel Topics Hub. If you Google that, then you don't have to bother typing in .weebly.com. It's on Weebly because it's free that way, you know?
So if the Danites took me out, you'd still have it.
Maybe. I don't know. Travis Wayne Goodsell said that Weebly did something to his website or something. I never looked at it. Not after the tater tots. I always give... Travis Wayne Goodsell puts out a lot of good information. Especially on church history and the priesthood developing, is where I found some really interesting stuff on his channel. It's definitely underrated. All right. Keep rocking them, Travis. Just no more tater tots. Okay. All right. So I'm gonna take a cue from my homepage here. I'm on the other phone. All right. So I'm just gonna read part of it and then ad lib on these points. So there'll be a lot more facts than just threes, but they will be supporting facts mainly. If I can, not go down too many other rabbit holes here. Of the first three items that I show as red flags on the homepage here, regarding some LDS truth and authority claims. There are plenty more than 10, but that's what I got on the home page, along with, various videos in the home page to, so we've got a narrative, just like I do on all the pages. One page will be on just about, first vision, and there'll be first vision videos and some narrative. One will be about treasure seeking. One will be about, different gospel topics, essays, all kinds of stuff, right? Book of Mormon, Book of Abraham. Yeah, evolving. So I've got, all right, see? I know I saw some videos. So videos that apply to the subject are on that page so that you can learn about stuff in an organized manner on video. I love this song. It's called In the Evening. It's a Led Zepp song. Woo! All right, let's get this party started. Mormon Truth Videos Gospel Topics Hub. Remember that. All right. So, point number one. So, basically the point of the website is to examine various LDS truth and authority claims, fact check them, and see how the facts line up with the bullshit you've had in church all these years. The covered up and changing history and teachings of the LDS Church. It gets tough when you've got what old speak is and it doesn't match new speak. To use Orwellian speak out of the 1984 book. Okay. I guess I'll read a little bit of the intro here. The second part of the intro. In order to evaluate the validity of the Church's truth and authority claims, I will give my description of the premise upon which the Church seems to be marketed historically from my observation. I think this is important to lead off with, right? From my observation, following which we must ask if the Church's doctrine, practices, and policies are consistent with the narrative marketed by the LDS Church. The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints presents the theme that the Old and New Testaments are essentially authentic, and that some of the basic tenets of Christianity are true, other than those items which where doctrines of the LDS Church differ from other churches due to mistranslation, claims the LDS Church, either accidental or deliberate, in the flawed scriptures altered by the great and abominable church of the devil, according to 1 Nephi chapter 13 in the Book of Mormon, right? And various other Mormon leaders, especially Brigham Young, which has in the past been identified by Mormon leaders as spearheaded by the Roman Catholic Church, to which all other churches are aligned with or part of in one degree or another, according to the next chapter in the Book of Mormon, which would be chapter 14 in 1 Nephi. And pretty much according to the Vatican Council meetings they've had, and where even Mormon leaders went in 2015-ish, yeah. Or the World Council of Churches. Okay, First Nephi, we won't talk about them funding terrorist organizations right now. First Nephi, chapters 13 and 14, and various discourses by LDS President Brigham Young and his brethren found in the Journal of Discourses firmly identify the Catholic Church as spearheading the great and abominable Church of the Devil. Also, in the book back here in the car library, 1966 version of Mormon Doctrine by Bruce R. McConkie has got some good content on that. We'll do that at another time. Okay, the story is that the Israelite God established covenants with Old Testament characters, starting with Adam, and continued supplying a stairway to heaven through the dispensation headed by Jesus Christ, after which the Church of the Devil wiped out the authorized priesthood representatives commissioned by Jesus, and the world entered the Dark Ages, devoid of divine guidance, until this same God and his son Jesus appeared to Mormonism's founder, Joseph Smith Jr., at age 14 in a grove of trees in New York, the first time he had happened to pray. Talk about, first time he prayed, God the Father and Jesus Christ appeared to him. All right, the first time he happened to pray. In said heavenly vision, Joseph was informed that all other Christian creeds were abominations, and their leaders were all corrupt. However, the true gospel of Jesus Christ would be restored through him at a later date, and for the time being, he just needed to stay away from those other religions. We won't talk too much about him joining the Methodist Sunday School in 1826 right now. The narrative continues by asserting, that's all right, they got rid of him because they decided that they didn't want any necromancers in their congregation. That's another video too. The narrative continues by asserting that Joseph was subsequently visited by heavenly messengers who arranged for him to miraculously translate an ancient record of the American Indians, who allegedly emigrated from Israel via boats about 600 BC, had prophets, and were visited by Jesus post-resurrection in the New Testament story. The New Testament Jesus, yeah. Okay, not the Jewish angel Jesus that Satan killed somewhere near the moon. If you know anything about, Jewish traditions, right? Chapters going into detail regarding the first vision, as it is called, and the translation of the Book of Mormon will have much more detail on this matter, as well as the restoration of the true gospel of Jesus Christ and his authorized priesthood authority to act in his name, and establish his one true church through continuous revelation to Latter-day prophets who practice Latter-day Satanism now. And the evolving doctrines, rites, and practices revealed by the unchanging eternal God to said prophets will round out the menu, which is found, as mentioned above, in hyperlinks up top in this homepage. Or, hyperlinks in the content also up on, there's a menu. Okay, so here we go. When reviewing LDS history for consistency with its narrative of being the one true and authorized church of the God the God of gods, we have some red flags, such as the following. So we're going to go over 3 of them here. All right, so this is just my red flags business on the homepage, and it kind of directs you to other pages where I've got, more narrative and videos going more in depth on those particular subjects, such as what I just named, First Vision or Book of Mormon, translation from the golden plates that we see Joseph Smith looking at in the Ensign magazine until, recent years, when they admitted that he had also marketed the fact that he was just looking on a magic rock and they weren't even there. Or that's what his wife told us, and the Whitmers, since that's where he was pulling that dog and pony show with Oliver Cowdery in their home. David Whitmer was one of the 3 witnesses, if you know what that subject's about, and his daddy, Peter Whitmer, and I think some others were part of that 8 witnesses business to the fact that these were a real thing. Just a second before we get started. Oh, come on! We gotta properly introduce this subject, because we're talking about Mormonism. That means we ain't talking about love. All right. I don't know. It just kind of helps me, Okay, the official First Vision story taught to members and prospective members by the thousands of missionaries who were out on missions until about last couple of weeks, when the church is trying to show that their end times prophecies are coming true about bringing home the missionaries, and the Lord's wrath coming upon Salt Lake City for being a wicked city with maybe HARP-instigated earthquakes by the thousands. Sharing the restored gospel was not part of the narrative used by Joseph Smith during the first decade of the church's existence, or 2 decades after it allegedly took place. Did you catch that? So, we've got church leaders for a long time telling us the church is hinged upon, especially Gordon B. Hinckley, for instance, on the first vision. If it's not true, we're a fraud. Gordon Hinckley said words to that effect, and we can find them on LDS.org, the Church of Jesus Christ.org. Excuse me. That was a victory for Satan. Yeah, he said that. But it wasn't even part of the narrative marketed by Joseph Smith in those days. We don't find him talking about this first vision for 2 decades after it allegedly took place. In fact, I don't know if we ever really find him talking about it. Okay? So it was the number 1 marketing piece for Mormonism, that and the Book of Mormon. And we don't, when I joined the LDS Church, but they never heard of this stuff. Okay. So it was conspicuously not included in the church's official history, published by Joseph Smith and his distant cousin and confidant, Oliver Cowdery, which they published around 1835, incrementally in the Times and Seasons. Okay. And stated that he was seeking to know if a supreme being even existed in 1823. That was the reason for that angel Nephi vision, which is now called the angel Moroni vision, thanks to probably Orson Pratt being the one who changed it in the church's own DHC, Documenting Church History. I think that's what it was in. Okay. Yeah, so 3 years after the alleged 1820 version of the father and son visit, and the official version also contradicts key aspects of the 8 or so alleged first vision accounts. He either wrote, dictated, or told trusted associates. Okay, so that's point number one. So I've got a whole web page on that in this website. It's about the first vision. You can see these horrendous contradictions to that premise. Like, okay, well, so 1823, he's saying he's trying to find out if God exists. And he wrote that, or Oliver Cowdery wrote it. Joseph Smith was the chief editor of the Times and Seasons, president of the church. They published that, never retracted it. Said he was looking to find out if a supreme being existed in 1823, and that was the cause for this angel Nephi vision. He didn't call him angel. He said he was a messenger from the presence of God, and his name was Nephi. Okay? After Joseph Smith was dead is when they changed that to say Moroni. They kind of have faked his history, in case you didn't know that. That, and we've got numerous quotes in some of these videos right out of general conference talks by people like Brigham Young, Orson Pratt, Heber C. Kimball, John Taylor, Wilford Woodruff. So, most of those guys being presidents of the church, all of them being apostles, all made statements that were in contradiction to the 1820 vision ever taking place. And basically named an 1823 start for Mormonism's, for divine messengers visiting Joseph Smith, and it wasn't a God the Father, Jesus Christ thing. So these guys are teaching this stuff well after Joseph Smith was dead even. This narrative of the first vision, 1820, the 14-year-old boy, first prayer, that wasn't taught. And it contradicts multiple things. It contradicts the fact that Joseph Smith's family started attending the Presbyterian Church in around late 1823, early 1824, because his brother Alvin died. His brother died, killed by a doctor, basically. They're doing that about 300,000 times a year, not including prescribing drugs. As just the slow kill prescription, but just misdiagnosis, you have like at least $250,000 a year. Now, anyway, so Alvin died. They gave him a poultice for his, whatever to swallow. It's just, I don't know. He died of like a bowel cloggage. Really, really probably horrific. He was Joseph Smith's oldest brother. This occurred in November of 1823. So the family began seeking some kind of, spiritual solace, wanting to believe that in life after death or something. I don't know. Even though they were kind of spiritualist occultists at the time, the mom and some of the kids joined the Presbyterian Church probably in 1824. Dad didn't go. He was offended because the Presbyterian minister was the guy who officiated at Alvin's funeral, and since Alvin wasn't a born-again Christian, he basically said, "Sorry guys, hate to tell you, your kid's going to hell." So father didn't like that. Mom took the kids to church. They joined the church about 1824. What we do know is that was after November 1823. Joseph Smith claims to have had this Moroni vision, or Nephi vision, in September of 1823 at the equinox, of course, right? Because he was an occultist. And in what we've got is the Joseph Smith history in the LDS scriptures, canonized in the Pearl of Great Price. You've got this whole story about how he had the first vision, and then he had the vision with Moroni and all this stuff. In it, he says before he had the first vision, which he's claiming in here, or whoever's writing this is claiming to have in 1820, his mom and siblings joined the Presbyterian Church. So that's quite anachronistic to, what the history actually shows. Because it's a made-up and then backdated story, just like the priesthood. From like 1834 or 5 back to 1829 in the narrative. We just get rid of the Book of Commandments because there was stuff that may have contradicted that in there, and we replace it with the Doctrine and Covenants. Get rid of the old speak that doesn't go with what our new narrative is as we rewrite our history. Nice. Okay, point number 2. The Book of Mormon was alleged to be declared absolutely true and accurately translated from said ancient records by Jesus Christ himself. to or through Joseph Smith, as recorded in the LDS Book of Doctrine and Covenants, containing church-approved revelations to the prophet, yet it has been corrected thousands of times subsequently. And it is filled with anachronistic statements, biblical storyline, and doctrine. Animals not present in pre-Columbian America, and technology such as steel weapons and armor for thousands of warriors who battled on the hill next to Joseph's home in New York, but cannot be found. It was quick disintegrating steel. I'm sure the apologists can think of some bullshit excuse, right? But cannot be found, along with the people and entire culture and evidence of existence vanishing without a trace. The Book of Mormon does contain narrative, including passages from popular books available to Joseph Smith at the time. I put available to Joseph Smith. That's kind of a popular narrative. I don't believe he wrote the Book of Mormon. I believe he was a front man. I believe there were several people involved with writing it. He may have been one of those, but I don't think he was the main contributor at all. Mormonism markets, the theme that it's just this 14-year-old unlearned boy. He must have had his stuff revealed to him, and that's kind of what he was marketing. I had it revealed to me on my magic rock, and then that got to be a thing they didn't want the church to be, that they didn't want to know it. I mean, the Book of Mormon strictly condemns magic and witchcraft, so why is he practicing witchcraft to get the Book of Mormon translated? So they kind of got rid of that thing and stashed the stone in the First Presidency vault, and unfortunately they got outed, probably by D. Michael Quinn in his book Early Mormonism and the Magic Worldview, right? They excommunicated him. He was a professor at BYU with some special privileges to get into some of these vaults, but they got rid of him. Why? Had a problem with truth? Or was it that he was a homosexual? And whatever, right? The church has always got an excuse. They got rid of him, but it was too late. The info was out, and now it's in the Gospel Topics Essays because they got to try to, CYA, right? Not to be confused with CES or CTR. That wasn't for Charles Taze Russell either. That was for Choose the Right. Personally, a friend showed me these rings. It's WTF. Just kind of styled like them. I want one. The Book of Mormon does contain narrative, including passages from popular books at that time, such as A View of the Hebrews by Oliver Cowdery's pastor, Ethan Smith. What a coincidence. The Late War between the United States and Great Britain, in which the Book of Mormon actually quotes mention of the 4th of July. Obvious plagiarism. It says in the fourth day of the 7th month, the layman of the Getty hens came up or something like that. I'm like, the 4th day of the 7th month? And the same words are in that book, Late War between Great Britain and the United States. And there are a number of quotes that just, shouldn't be in a narrative that's supposedly written, it's like between 600 BC and 400 AD, right? But you got it filled with 19th century Christianity, including either quotes or near quotes from New Testament characters. It's pretty funny. And discussion of New Testament, issues. Grace versus works and stuff like that. And they just call it, what do they call it? Mercy versus judgment or something, right? In justice, in like Alma chapters 40 through 42, somewhere in there, right? The Book of Mormon is filled with 19th century Christian vernacular and New Testament topics. Just what I was saying, huh? And even some quotes in its pre-New Testament timeline. So in other words, if you're quoting New Testament stuff in 600 BC, yeah, it's a little anachronistic, right? It contains many chapters from the book of Isaiah, nearly word for word, including some that would have been originally penned after the Book of Mormon crew had departed from Jerusalem. See, the problem there is they say, okay, we brought these plates of Isaiah and so forth with us, except for the stuff attributed to Isaiah, some of it that's in the Book of Mormon actually wasn't written until after 600 BC. So, oops. Yeah, there's a lot of oopses there. It's written in 17th century English, meant to blend with the King James translation of the Bible. The Bible verses which it contains, which somehow carried over KJV mistranslations found in the edition that happened to be in the Smith Family Bible, 1769 version or something, right? As well as verses that Joseph later changed in his retranslation of the Bible in order to give the world the pure word of the Israelite God, restored from that which the church of the devil had corrupted. So, let me make sure you're getting this. Joseph Smith gave us his translation, the pure, inspired translation of the King James version of the Bible. So you got the King James, supposedly he's going off, right? But then he's getting inspired by the Israelite God to make changes where the Catholic Church changed stuff. The Church of the Devil. So we are told that the Book of Mormon, we're told this by Jesus himself through Joseph Smith channeling him, right? That the Book of Mormon is true. It's absolutely true. It was translated correctly by Joseph Smith off of these golden plates. We've got Joe being the mouthpiece for Jesus as the prophet, saying Jesus is endorsing the Book of Mormon as true, and that it contains the fullness of the gospel, the everlasting gospel of Jesus. In other words, it's got everything in it you need for salvation. It's got the real thing. It's got the truth. It's not corrupted. And the main reason for having this Book of Mormon for us in the latter days as a second witness for Jesus Christ is to restore the plain and precious truths that the Catholic Church, the great and abominable church of the devil, took out of the Book of Mormon in order to cause us to stumble in our faith and belief, so we wouldn't have all the correct principles. So the Book of Mormon is supposed to be restoring what's screwed up in the Bible intentionally by these evil Catholic priests. I'm not disputing the Catholic priests are often very evil pedophiles. There's just too much evidence to support that, right? What I am saying is that that's the premise that we find in 1 Nephi chapter 13 of the Book of Mormon. And scattered throughout in other verses is that theme. So Joseph Smith goes to correct the shit that's fucked up. Oh, there we went with the naughty words. We must avoid saying anything that the acronym that fornication under consent of the king here, right? Because it might offend people that are clueless or have been conditioned to believe it'll drive the Holy Spirit away. I'll try not to say that, Mormons, because I want you to listen to this. So Joseph Smith, when he's retranslating the Bible, changes some of these verses. He says they're corrupted. They're corrupted by the great and abominable church. Here's the pure translation. The problem with that is that we find the corrupted version of that, of some of these verses,